So do you want to start with what goddess energy means to you?
Sure. So to me, goddess energy is a collective source of power, um, as well as guidance or wisdom that is connected to the divine feminine that we can tap into. What about you?
So, I guess we'll get into divine feminine more in a second, but yeah, for me, goddess energy is embodying the strengths of being a woman,
Yeah.
and tapping into the millennia of women that have come before us and their strengths, um, and tying that into divine feminine, like you said. I feel like divine feminine is like your spiritual feminine, like pure source energy. I don't know, how do you view that one?
So the divine feminine to me is the collective energy that is woman.
Okay.
So all the women who have been and ever will be. So I guess kind of like that same instance of source.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like, just in more clarification, to me, the goddess energy is something that um, surpasses humanity.
Okay.
It's something greater than the human experience.
Okay. Now, what about just goddess in general? Because just to define what a goddess is, apart from the energy.
Yeah. So for me, I've always felt like goddesses, or I've always seen goddesses as one, the female source.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything has duality. So if there is unpopular opinion, but if there is God, there must be goddess. Um, but it's also about archetypes. So the goddess is the embodiment of, or the collective embodiment of any female archetype that we could tap into.
Agreed.
You.
Um, I think, like you said about archetypes, I know a lot of people associate more with a particular culture of goddesses, a particular pantheon, whether it's Hindu or Greek, whatever it is that you kind of connect with. But I think that the key thing, one thing you and I have talked about a lot lately, is those same energies are repeating through each of these cultures. So I think it's an important thing to keep in mind that no matter how different, this comes up with the whole separation thing, no matter how much you view being connected to one thing, you are actually also connected to all the others, because we all have the same repeating energies in each of these cultures. So I think that is an important thing to keep in mind, as far as just your separateness and how much you really aren't separate.
Yeah.
And as far as the Shakti goes, I'm gonna let you talk about that, because you're well more versed with Shakti than I am.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like Shakti is so many things, but I feel like we're all programmed with Shakti, and we just don't know it until we know it. And it's connected to our, as women embodying feminine energy, we all have the ability to create. And Shakti is that divine creation energy, and it's sourced from our womb space, from that sacral chakra area. That is the seat of Shakti. And when we start to embody our Shakti, we're more likely to start connecting to our Kundalini, and just really awakening to different parts of ourselves and our abilities, our power as women.
Do you feel that goddess energy, divine feminine, and Shakti are essentially just all the same thing? Or do you think that they have clear differences between them that separate them?
I don't. I feel like Shakti is something that the divine feminine and that goddess energy have.
Okay, so it's a characteristic of
Yeah. I feel like whereas there is difference between goddess energy and goddess, because I do feel like goddess is that source, that archetype, that otherworldly energy. The goddess and the divine feminine would be that consciousness that we can then embody.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and that's what allows us to really embrace that creative nature as women, and to find our power. I feel like goddess energy is the embodiment of the goddess.
Okay. I know this is probably something we should talk about at a different time, but the fact that there are, when you're balanced and when you're unbalanced, with your energy. So and that's probably gonna have to be a whole video by itself about the different attributes that come along with being balanced in your feminine and unbalanced.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about now with that, or should we save that for another time?
Well, I think it's important to kind of touch on it a bit, because embodying your divine feminine doesn't mean that you stop embracing the masculine qualities that are within you. You know, just kind of like I was saying with duality, if there's God, there is goddess. So we are our own personal mix of both masculine and feminine, and it is unique to each one of us. But because society's movement into patriarchy many years ago and stripping us of the goddess, a lot of us walk around in this unknowing of ourselves, and reject or deny our goddess energy or our divine feminine for the sake of assimilating, to fit in and to succeed, and basically to run a man's race.
I agree. I also think that over the past several thousands of years, a lot of shame has been programmed into us for using those qualities, for actually embracing some of those qualities, like our sexuality. There's a lot of things that we have been taught within the whole patriarchal society that we're in now, that it's bad if you embrace that.
Yeah.
And I know that that's also something that we want to talk about later, but I think it's important to know all of the aspects and not shun some of them, because feeling ashamed by them, especially the sexuality. I think that that's probably one of the biggest things,
yeah, for sure,
that we have to neglect now. Talking about sexuality and shame, that's a great way to bring that one up. Do you want to talk about like how we have struggled as far as maybe in the past, or still struggling with embracing those qualities?
Oh, for sure. I know for me personally, you know, we, like you said, we deal with a lot of shame surrounding our feminine form, our sexuality. But then there's also the perpetuation that really the only archetype that you really get to see the goddess in mainstream culture is when she is the vixen, when she is sultry and she is sexual and she is lusted after.
Right.
And so it makes you think about femininity and goddess energy in a very objectified way. I know for me in particular, I, through my own experiences for a long time, equated goddess energy with the vixen, but also with being weak. I felt like to embrace my divine feminine energy or to immerse myself in goddess energy would be taking power away from me.
Okay.
Because I was looking around at the world that we're in, and there's no time for feelings. There's no time for cyclic natures. You know, women, no secret, we all have a cycle, and you know, we're trained to ignore that cycle instead of embrace it. You grow up thinking that your menses is dirty instead of sacred. That really the only 3 acceptable archetypes for women are the virgin, the mother, and the good girl. The good girl is the people pleaser. You know, little girls are indoctrinated to be liked and to not cause waves, to not be different, and to not be sexual. And when you are sexual, it's only for the sake of being a mother. And then once you're a mother, you are sacrificial and you don't matter anymore. And that is not working. And it was coming to the understanding that that did not work for me through my own personal crises, my own personal identity crisis after having my second child and really being in that motherhood role, that I was like, yeah, there has to be more.
I understand all of that. I think you made good points with the virgin, the mother, and the good girl, and it's like those are the only really accepted ones, because even when we talk about like the crone energy, as far as like the wise older woman, you know, that has been a mother, you know, she knows it all, the grandma that you go to for advice, that's still not embraced because that's not seen as beautiful anymore. Women as we age are not considered sexy, beautiful. We lose our femininity, yet as men age, they are more distinguished and wise. Gray hairs look great on a man. Yeah. So we're taught to hide our aging, hide our periods, hide anything that makes a man uncomfortable about our femininity. And on the flip side of that, women that want to be in male dominated fields are called bitches. Like that, in order to be a successful woman, they kind of have to relinquish the mother role. They have to relinquish the good girl role. And they put on their masculine pants and they go to work. And unfortunately, they've now lost all their balance.
Yeah.
Because if they show any of their feminine aspects in that field, they're looked at as weak.
Yeah.
So they suppress all of that, and they're the first one to swear. They're the first one to drink. You know, like they're the first one to tell somebody to F off because they have to be seen to be just as strong as the man is.
Yeah.
So they have to relinquish all of even the acceptable titles. And I know for me it was a struggle for me to embrace even the mother role, because I was in a male-dominated field, and no one cares that your kid is sick. No one cares that you're breastfeeding. You go pump milk in the bathroom. You know, like it's not something that you can't have both worlds is kind of what is taught to us. And I think that we're getting to a place now where women are starting to understand we actually kind of can.
Mm-hmm.
It takes balance, it takes having allies, and it takes talking about it and having the conversation. But I know for me, mentally wrapping my head around the fact that I could be successful in my field and also still be feminine and have my children and be a good mother.
Mm-hmm.
That took a while for me to actually come to terms with and understand.
Now, let me ask you a question. Now, this is something that Rebecca Campbell does talk about in Rise Sister Rise, which I know that it's both on both of our lists. It's kind of part of this journey a bit. She talks about before she entered her current career as a healer and an author, when she was in marketing, which is male dominated.
Right.
And she talked about how she had to, masculine energy is go, 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 go. And so she talked about how she had to ignore her internal compass.
Right.
Because women are kind of like waves. So it's like we come in this like very productive wave, and then we pull back, and then we do it again, but we get just as much, if not more, accomplished by following our own ebbs and flows.
Right.
So she talked about how her ebbs and flows were not understood in her industry, so she had to push herself to be go, 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 just like man. Did you experience that as well?
Yeah. So for me, it was very much. I noticed a lot of my Virgo came out when I was working as well, but it was, you kind of have to be, you have to show up more than anyone else. For a man, from my experience anyway, a man can kind of do the bare minimum and get by and still get all the rewards. For me, I would have to do above and beyond what any male coworkers did to get similar rewards or move past them.
Yeah.
I know she talked about having to be like the last one at work, sacrificing a lot. And the other thing I've noticed, and this is not as much of a feminine trait, but whoever does the best work gets more work.
Yeah.
So it ends up just kind of piling on and becoming overwhelming. So that was always a big struggle, because then that left less time for my family.
Yeah, you can't say no, because then you look weak.
Exactly. So it's, hey, can you do this? Hey, I need you to do this. Hey, I know you're good at this. Can you do this? And it's like, okay, because also there's the feminine side. We don't say no.
Yeah.
That's a big problem that we have.
And that's probably why half the time they went to you, because they knew you wouldn't say no.
Exactly. And women have a hard time prioritizing our own happiness, mental state, our own interests over anyone else's.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. It's very difficult to balance everything. So I've definitely struggled with that. And then as far as the sexuality goes, I don't know. That's a loaded question, right? Though that's a loaded topic.
Yeah, I feel like the sexuality of women would need its own segment, and it would be. I feel like it would get very deep, very fast.
Definitely agree. There's a lot around that. I've had moments where I fully embrace it, and then I will either shut myself down because of the societal programming that I have, and my family's beliefs that I grew up with, even though I do not agree with them. They still kind of creep in. Yeah. And you're not supposed to like sex as a woman. That's not what sex is for. Those things kind of creep up in the back of your head, and even if you know logically in your brain that, wait, that's wrong.
Yeah, like, this is healthy.
It still creeps in there. Just like when you're meditating and a little thought pops up and you're like, hey, go away. We're not doing that right now. it's still there. So it's like, well, you're a slut if you like that. And it's like, it just creeps in the back of your head, and it's like, go away, like, and if you don't force it to go away, it kind of lingers.
Yeah.
Or someone else outright telling you, like, oh, you're a slut for liking that, or
you're a slut because you let me sleep with you.
Yes. I have heard that one. I have heard that one. That goes into when we do that next talk about virginity and what virginity actually meant.
Yes.
A long time ago, and how that was taken away from us.
Yeah. And I feel like, I know we said it's a loaded topic, so we weren't going to go too deep, but I feel like the confliction there for a lot of women, and I know for myself in certain ways too, is that, there's this worth that's put on you as far as, your virginity, or, how many partners you've had, things of that nature. But then there's also this other level of worth that's put on you for your performance. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you must be the virgin and the slut. Mm-hmm. But you better not be everybody's slut.
Exactly. the freak in the sheets comment.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, that is something that has been perpetuated by men.
Yeah.
Still listening to it. I think that that's kind of the basis for everything, is the fact that we are still letting them dictate our reality. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of women are, for the past 60 years, this has been a very big thing. People women reclaiming this. And not even just women, but reclaiming that side of yourself that has been deemed bad by someone else. And it's like, what the fuck does it matter that you think that what I'm doing is bad?
Yeah.
But that's a hard thing. It's a hard pill to swallow, because, most people want to be liked. You don't really want people to not like you.
And we talked about, the programming that women get from their time they're little girls. You're programmed to want to be liked. So you don't want to do that, but then there's been this perpetual silence. The only reason why men have been able to dictate, what acceptable archetypes there are for women. I do understand, and I do acknowledge that there was a point in time where the ramifications for our ancestors, the women before us, was extremely grave for them to try to stand up or speak out, even to the point of experiencing ostracization, death, exile. So that's not to say that there weren't crusaders, or that there weren't, that they just decided not to.
Right.
I'm not saying that, but the only reason why now men can dictate what is an acceptable archetype or behavior for a woman is because of women allowing them. But in order to get past that, there's a lot of healing that we all have to do in our personal power and in our throat chakras, because we have to get to the point where it's like, the words don't get stuck anymore, where there is no shame, where you're just screaming vagina because you can. Yes. Or I don't know if there was this one part in Rise Sister Rise where she talks about her and her friend running down the street and screaming, "I'm a whore."
Okay, so we are back. Yes. after your power outage.
Yes, the power out.
So I think we should just pick up where we left off. And you were talking about Rebecca Campbell running through the street saying we are whores.
Yes. So her and her friend had gone out for a drink, and her friend just started running down the street going, "I'm a whore." And at first Rebecca was like, "Oh my God, But then she was like, wait, there's something to this. So then she's like running down the street with her, going, I'm a whore, I'm a bitch, I'm a slut, I'm this, I'm that. And I was inspired. So I tried it out. I did it for myself, and all my neighbors thought I was crazy because I was like in my backyard just belting it out.
Really? When was this?
What?
How long ago was this?
Oh, a couple months ago. But it was so cathartic. It was so, that everything that you feel like you're not supposed to be, when you just say, I'm this. I am what you told me not to be.
Right.
And I don't care. I'm gonna say it with no fucks.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. Like, you feel so liberated. And that was really, I was really focusing in on my my throat chakra at that point, because I knew that there was coming a time where I was going to need to speak out. There was things I had to say, and I had to get past my own personal indoctrination, my own personal programming, the internal voices in my head, because the voices of your family, of the adults that take care of you when you are a child, become your inner voice. And my own judgments of myself, not to mention past life issues, because a lot of us, if you do choose, I respect everybody's ability to decide for themselves in anything. So for some people, they may not even believe that reincarnation or past lives happen, and that is completely okay. It's my personal belief that we do reincarnate. Right. And that you do carry karma or baggage from your past lives. And so a lot of women from birth struggle with the need of acceptance from a man, and the ability to speak up for herself, and the ability to love herself and be organically who she is, because of things you may be carrying over from your past life.
Right. Or even just your ancestral line as well.
Yes. The ancestral cycles is another major one.
I know that's one thing that I've wondered about as far as the craving a man's approval. Is that, how do I phrase this? I guess my question that I've pondered is that something, I feel like I already know the answer to this, but is that something that is more of a modern issue that we have because of how men have been taken away from the household? Divorce is so much more prevalent pretty much since World War II, feminism really started kicking off. Now that women can do it all, and it's like men are just like, oh, okay, then do it all. And so I don't know, part of me feels like it's something we struggle with even more because so many of us are raised without a close relationship with our father. But then when I think back, historically, I don't feel that having a close relationship with your father was ever really a thing. No. Not for women. So I guess that really is something that we've always had. Like the boys would spend time with their fathers to learn to hunt or farm or do whatever it is that the family lineage did, blacksmith, like whatever your position was in society, they would traditionally just take over their father's job. So I understand that they might have had a much closer connection, but women were always, to be seen, not heard, in the kitchen, taking care of the household. So maybe that is just something that we've always struggled with.
Yeah. I think that you bring up a very interesting point. And I feel like there's a lot of moving pieces to that. Mm-hmm. I think that it may be amplified by the fact that, like you said, divorce rates and the fact that, nowadays it's like you can do it on your own. But I also feel like men as well have for a very long time, since probably the end of the matriarchy, been forced to deny themselves nurturing and the ability to connect with their feminine side
because
and
it's
their emotions. And that I feel like that in itself has impacted their ability to connect with women. How can you understand? How can you accept? How can you love what you must reject in yourself?
right. That's kind of a profound thought. This is definitely something for a later date, but a message that I've been getting reoccurring for a while now is that is, this might be controversial, that is where we are getting so much of the LGBTQ coming from now, because not denying anyone's feelings on what they are, who they are, but I feel that so many more people are more in touch with, how do I say this? So say a man, he's much more in touch with his divine feminine. I think it's almost programmed that if you are, you must be gay. Because you more embody the qualities of a woman, or you must actually be a woman in a man's body because you embody these characteristics. And not saying that that's wrong, because that I haven't experienced feeling like I was a man in a woman's body, but I feel that we're balancing out as a society. I think that that's something that so many people talk about, is that this is the rise of the divine feminine, but not only is it a rise, it is a equaling out.
Yeah.
So not so much that, okay, we're going to go back to the matriarchy, we're going to go back to girl power, and we're going to run shit. More of, okay, we had the matriarchal society for thousands of years, we've had the patriarchal society for the past 5,000 years. Now let's come back and let's balance now.
Yeah.
We've each had our periods of running stuff.
Yeah.
And now let's
realizing that. Yeah, realizing that it doesn't work alone. That
exactly.
Both are equally important and needed. I do think that it's going to be changes. Not only are women changing, but I do think that we're going to see an ignition or a shift in a lot of men. And I do believe that women are going to have to hold space for them in a way. Even now, I think that, and even me myself, this isn't a judgment on anyone or saying like, oh, shame on women, but I do acknowledge that we are, as a society, we don't acknowledge the feelings of men.
Right.
Men are not given the same space or time to figure themselves out or to learn themselves.
Right.
Women are. And I feel like in this rebalancing, we're going to have to allow for time for adjustment for them while they figure those things out. And even, supporting them, letting them know, like, no, we like you much better like this. Embrace your feelings. And, as a mother, I see in my son, he's he's all boy, but he's very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think watching him develop into the person he's becoming was one of the moments where I was like, really like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You guys do have feelings.
Oh.
And I think that kind of leads into the whole toxic masculinity, which is it's a whole nother sector, rabbit hole. We could be here talking for days about that. But I do feel like women, as we embrace ourselves and accept ourselves and love ourselves, we're also going to have to create space for men to start exploring their feminine nature and knowing that, and reassuring them that that does not take away from their manhood.
Exactly. And that is going to take wound healing and social programming,
yes,
eradication on our part, because and speaking from personal experience, how often have you heard a woman call a guy soft, or break a guy down? I know a word I've used often is corny. He's corny, and it's the nice guy finishes last kind of thing. And it's like we look at them as less than. Women always like the bad boy, and it's because that's the protector image. That's the
bad boy oozes testosterone.
Yes. it that has biological ties, of course, because you want the man that can protect you and your children, which I think that's one thing we don't realize. Like, so many women are like, why do I always end up with the guy that treats me like shit? And it's like, well, because biologically speaking, you want when the two bucks are out there fighting, the one that wins is the one that gets the girl. And it's still the same thing. It's just playing in our subconscious. So it's something that we have to retrain ourselves to actually appreciate a man that isn't soft, because I mean, there's a fine line between just being soft and being in touch with your emotions. And I think that that's something we have to retrain ourselves to accept and to embrace in men. And I do think, after talking with you about like how you're raising your son, I think that that's also something that maybe a woman that doesn't have kids or doesn't have sons might not be able to appreciate as much, because I know you would always want your son. I assume a woman would want her son to treat women better than most men treat women.
And sure.
You would want to raise your son to embody these traits that you feel that most men are lacking. And I think that that's hard if you've never actually experienced raising a boy. And like, I personally haven't. I don't know what that's like to be able to actually watch them from a young age. I mean, I have brothers that are much younger than me, so slightly got a little taste of what it's like seeing an emotional young boy and how they could be before they're suppressed. And before they're told, like, you have to man up, boys don't cry, and it's just not acceptable for them. And that's going to be a hard thing for us as women to restructure in our own thought process, judging them. We judge them as much, and we push our own norms and images of what we think is okay for men on them just as much as they put it on us. And it isn't looked at as bad because we're not out here raping and causing detriment to them. So not physically, but emotionally, a lot of harm has been done to them for a very long time. I think that that's an important thing to get across with that whole toxic masculinity, that men aren't bad. They're not inherently evil creatures that we need to overcome and get rid of.
Robots and have no feelings.
We don't need to replace them. There's very much a place for them. But we all kind of have to restructure our thinking around what we are as people, what we want to embrace, what qualities we want, balancing ourselves with our own inner masculine and feminine, as well as allowing others to balance their own feminine and masculine.
That right there reminds me, I was watching something on Gaia, and I can't remember the woman's name who was talking, but she said that people typically have like a 70-30 type of ratio going on. And it's unique to everyone, so it may not be exactly 70-30, but she says that, everyone has a balance of masculine and feminine that is somewhere in that ratio, or that if you find that you're extremely feminine or extremely masculine, your goal, you'll never get to be 50-50 if you're extreme. So your goal should be 70-20, 70-30.
Okay.
And that by embracing that 70-30, you harmonize yourself, because you allow both abilities to shine, but you lead with the one that you're strongest in.
That makes sense.
So I think that allowing men to explore and adjust themselves to incorporate that 30% of the feminine within themselves would really change society as a whole.
Oh, I agree.
I know, a little off topic, but as a mom with a son who, I am trying to embody him, to raise him to see that he not only is he, a strong masculine presence, that he can have emotions, but I also want him to see, the divine feminine as goddess, and to appreciate women and our ability to create and our power. But there is fear in that as well, because it's like, I don't want to raise him I don't want to put him at a disadvantage, because he will so highly respect creatures who haven't yet learned to understand and respect him.
I see that fear. This is definitely very much off topic, but that is one thing I know I've personally said for years. There's always a good person in the relationship, typically. And then there's usually someone that gives 70 and someone that gives 30, or someone that gives 90 and someone that gives 10. But typically, and that's not a male or female thing. There's some really great guys out there, and for some reason, they are usually the ones that end up with someone that really hurts them, whether it's a man or a woman. Good people tend to gravitate towards toxic people, and then they get their hearts broken. So
it's not the other way around. I don't know. Do you think that inherently good people are drawn to toxic, or do you think that the toxic is drawn to the light?
I think it's both. It's magnetism.
Yeah.
It's duality at its finest. I think we all are inherently looking to balance ourselves out. We're just not quite sure how to do it. So when you're really good, you kind of want a taste of that not so good aspect,
or you think that you can heal that person.
That's the savior complex.
That's a whole nother video.
It's a whole other video. I don't know how long it'll take us to get around to that one, but I see what you mean. Like that is a very valid fear, both for women in a relationship that may try to take advantage of him being an involved man, but as well, depending on how much society changes in the next 15, 20, 30 years, how will that affect how he's seen in the workplace?
So when I saw that in myself, that fear,
Mhm.
it also made me realize that this is probably a huge reason or a huge fear of men. This is why this has to be a resistance, and why men won't explore that, or won't at least part of it, why they're not willing to evolve in
I
that
don't
way.
want to get taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's very much the whole, women are very passive and we're very receptive. And to take on the female traits and the female qualities, it kind of equals becoming passive and becoming receptive. And most men don't like to receive on any level, no matter what we're talking about. So it's kind of one of those no-go areas. Like, if I receive, if I am receptive, if I'm open, then I'm seen as weak. So I can understand, but there has to be a way for us to bridge that.
Yeah, bridge the gap. I think talking about it is the first step. Acknowledging like, oh, I have unhealthy views or judgments of men. Let me start working on this.
Which I think ties back to goddess energy.
Yeah.
Because, one, we want to embrace the goddess energy and the positive aspects of being a woman. But within that, we also have to be able to embrace the divine masculine, because he is, I mean, yes, you have that within yourself, but then when you come into a partnership, whether that's with a man or not, like, I mean, that could be with a woman that is your divine masculine counterpart, or it could be man with man. One of you is typically going to be more. Yeah. So I think that is part of the sacred balance of the goddess, to recognize the divine masculine shortcomings and allow him to feel safe with those shortcomings, so that he can process it when he's ready. Holding space. I mean, that's, I think, something most of us probably need to work on. I know for sure I need to work on that.
I think holding space in general, because when you start to really think about, just from my personal experience, thinking about goddess energy, if I was really allowing myself to embrace it, how I would embody it, what that journey would look like for me, I had to hold a lot of space for myself. And, we're taught to put ourselves last.
Right.
So first, of course, we want to go out there and help other people. And we want to, everyone wants to see the collective, the goal is for the collective to raise in consciousness and vibration and to heal. But we first have to start with ourselves.
Right.
It always goes back to yourself, because what you are is what you will emanate out into the world. So when you learn to hold space for yourself, then you can more sufficiently hold space for others, in a positive way.
And I think that kind of brings us to one of our points of what we were hoping this channel could be, a very organic discussion about embodying and healing your own energy, embracing it, trying to release the shame, and not as a teaching mechanism per se, but as allowing others to see that a lot of the thoughts that you have are thoughts that we all have.
Yeah.
You're not as crazy. You're not as different as you really think. And that there is a huge shift in consciousness that's happening. So I know we're hoping that this can be a platform for education slightly, but also just for exploring things.
Yeah.
And getting the thoughts going and getting the conversation going. What are your thoughts on adding to that?
I think that you basically took the words out of my mouth, that it really is about conversation starting and letting people know that they're not alone, that they're not crazy. And, if there's certain breadcrumbs along the way that, ignite something in someone so that they can go and follow their own path or their own journey. And I think that even in certain cases, the goal is to trigger people. And I know that sounds crazy, but when we are triggered, that is when we're seeing exactly what we need to work on, exactly where we're hurting or where we're lacking. And of course, this channel is for I know for both of us, it's always from a place of love. It's always from a place of light. So even when we're sharing opinions, it's never from a place of malice.
Right.
But I want it to make people think. I want it to assist in the evolution of people who may not have been thinking about these things to begin with, or may have been thinking about them but not knowing where to go or what to do. Which is why we will be talking so deeply about our experiences and different topics, and sharing books and tools that we are using personally to help us bridge these gaps or understand these energies. And not saying that these are the only books or the only tools or the only way to do it, because it'll be different for everyone. But at least it's an idea. It's a starting point. So I hope that when people watch our channel or watch our discussions, that they will be ignited or sparked, but then take it and run with it.
Explore.
Follow your soul's calling. Like, where is this leading you? And then come back and tell us about it, because I want to hear about it. I want to know what other people think as well, because I know that my view is, of course, I would like to think of myself as a more evolved person, but my view is singular. It's my voice and it's my experience. So I want to hear what other people think as well.
I think that that's also something I will probably reiterate throughout the evolution of our channel, but discernment is huge. And being able to discern if what you're hearing or seeing is something that is your truth or not, because we don't have the same truth. So whether it's listening to us talk, or whether it's listening to literally anyone else, or reading a book, or watching a pick a card, whatever it is that you're watching, you have to be able to understand that we're all human, and we're all filtering things through our own reality and our own truth. So when you hear something, one, that doesn't automatically make it true, and two, if it triggers you, it could be because it's something you need to work on, or it could be something that just isn't for you. But you have to use your own discernment to find out which is the case for you. I think that that's something that we'll have to keep. Just because we say it doesn't mean that it's law, doesn't mean that it's true, doesn't mean it's real. It might be for us, it might not be for someone else. But I definitely, I would like to make this a platform for people to be able to share their own experiences, connect with each other, maybe form bonds at some point. I know YouTube comment section isn't the best place to do that, but hopefully in time there will be a better way for that to happen. But if we're not talking about it, change can't happen. As far as the tools, I know we've been discovering a lot of people lately that we've never heard of. And, I think it's important to to share things that maybe other people might not have heard of that could be very powerful and life-changing, as well as it would be great if anyone that happens to find this, if they have suggestions, leave it, because we're still discovering people all the time that we've never heard of that have really great messages.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know we were talking about it yesterday. We're gonna have libraries by the time. Give us a year, we're gonna have personal library. Yeah, because there is so much information out there, and it doesn't all ring true for everyone. But I feel like you can't knock it until you've, at least you have to hear it out. You have to try to step outside of yourself and hear the other person's message. And if it resonates, it resonates. And if it doesn't, then that was interesting. And you keep moving.
That is, I think, an important thing for, I know I've always lived my life that way. I will listen to anyone speak. Like, I don't care if you're a homeless person on the street. I don't care if you are some radical racist that I have nothing in common with. I will sit here and hear you out. I might have some things to say back at the end that I want you to sit and hear out. But one, I feel like we can all learn something from literally everyone.
Yeah.
Even if it is I know I'm not okay with that, or I know I don't agree with that, or that person's crazy. There's always something to be learned from everyone. But you have to be at least open to listening, and putting your emotions in the backseat for a second, and just listening to someone else's experience. Because you never know if there's a message hidden in there for you that you might not have otherwise got. And I know some people are going to have issues with that because, I mean, actually, we won't get into that. Never mind. I was going to go on something that we don't need to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good point to make that as we take this journey and, as people interact, because I hope that there is interaction, that it's done with respect and love, and to know, even as you listen to us, even that this, like you said, is just our opinion and our experience. And I think that while we're talking about goddess energy and the divine feminine, that can be very triggering for a lot of people who were raised or who still do practice masculine-based religions. And I say that from personal experience because I was raised Baptist, and it's a very it's a Christian religion. It's very masculine-based, and I'm not. So when we're talking about the goddess, we're not saying that your way is wrong to anyone. And that's why I include archetype in my definition of goddess, because I feel like regardless of your religion, in society, the way that we learn, the way that we assess energies is through story. And so the stories of the goddess, or any goddess, any divine feminine. I mean, even we could talk about Esther, the queen from the Bible, or any other divine feminine energy. Stories that are told through her lens will embody that particular archetype that goddess or energy has. And you can tap into that or focus in on that, or say, "Ooh, I need more of that," and bring that into yourself. So I do hope that people from all walks of life are just willing to listen with an open mind, and know that this is not trying to sway your personal beliefs or tell you that you're wrong, because I don't think anybody is wrong. And I just think that there's something here for every woman, and for men as well, if you allow yourself the ability to see it through non-judgmental eyes.
I think I think the thing I sent you yesterday about the no one's wrong, but no one's fully right either.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's definitely, like you said, like this is going to be triggering. Like some of the things that we take on, you're not going to agree with, or you might like actually have serious reactions to it emotionally, and that's good. Like it's good to question whose thoughts are you actually thinking? Are these even your thoughts? Or are you thinking things that you were programmed to think, that your parents thought, that society thinks? And I can almost hear my own family members saying, you're just supposed to have faith, and it's a sin to even question these things. And I think that that is what people that want us to behave want us to think. People that think for themselves are dangerous.
Yeah.
So personally, I would like for more people to start thinking for themselves. Like stop holding on to those things your mom told you that you've carried over, that you don't even know why you've carried it over, or stereotypes you have of people that you might have never even met a person of that culture before, yet you cling to this hatred or stereotype because it's something you saw on TV, or it's something that your family believes, or whatever the reason, something that the news said. Have you actually met someone of that whatever culture? Have you sat down and had a conversation with them? Like, start to think of why you think the thoughts that you think, and better understand yourself. So I hope that we're able to probably piss people off, but at least that's a step in the right direction. Like I hope if we do piss you off, you at least still keep listening. And then maybe in 10 years, you will realize why you were pissed off and rethink it. I don't know, just be open to listening, I think is my hope.